Hey guys, we're here in our home tonight, and yeah, we're coming back for another episode of Shepherd's Life.
Yeah, I was chatting with Shannon. Shannon loves to read books. I personally am not a huge reader, but I do enjoy listening to audiobooks or being read to. And a little while ago, a few years ago,
Yeah,
she introduced me to an author. She was reading me a book one time, and it was by author Lorna Cook.
yeah.
And I'm not truthfully sure where she heard of her first. I'll leave that to her. But she had read me a book one time, and it was so phenomenal. Anyways, tell us about Lorna.
So I don't even know. I think the reason I discovered Lorna Cook was Curtis bought me a book at Christmas time one year. And I actually am not a massive reader, but when I get into a book, it consumes me and I love reading. So I started reading her book and it caught me instantly. The interesting thing about Lorna Cook and how she writes, at least how she started off with her first novels, is they're historical novels. So they're all based in either the First World War or Second World War. But most of her books have a reflective pattern where it starts during the wartime and then it reflects back to present day or around
Hmm.
this time in our lives. And so it just kind of was interesting. And Curtis and I were actually in Newfoundland driving around, and I brought the book with me, and so I started reading it out loud to him.
Yeah. I was saying to her, again, I like when someone either is reading to me or I listen to
Mhm.
audiobooks. And it was just so interesting. I mean, my typical stories that I listen to, like Lord of the Rings or something like that, it's a little bit different. Um, but she started reading me, and it was the book that we have here, The Girl from the Island. And just talking about this story around this girl in the Guernsey Island. But the thing that was so interesting, I was sitting there the other day because Shannon has started to read Lorna Cook's books, and she just really enjoys them.
Yeah.
And so next thing I know, I check the Amazon cart and it's like there's another pre-order, and I'm like, what's this book for? And then there's another pre-order, and I think there's a couple of them in pre-order right now.
Yes, there
That
are.
showed up in my Amazon cart. And when these ones showed up, I said to her, why don't you do a quick podcast, just talk about Lorna Cook and her stuff? And so she finally agreed, but I'm gonna kind of defer it over to her. But I will say this: the books to me were phenomenal. The one, the girl from the island, and the story about the Guernsey Island and how it transfers between 1940 and 2016, and just the way the two stories marry together to create one complete story. Lorna Cook does phenomenal with it. So yeah, I said, Shannon, you need to come down, just do a quick talk about Lorna. Who knows if she's going to see it or not, but I just thought it would be fun to share it. So I'm going to turn it over to her just to talk a little bit, like not necessarily in depth about the books. Go read the
Yes,
books.
go read the books. They're really
We're
interesting.
not going to sit here and be like, okay, Lucy remembered Will. But you go and have a read of those. But I'm just going to get her to share a couple things about them.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is Lorna Cook only started releasing her first novel in 2019. So that was the year I started reading her very first book, which was called The Forgotten Village. And that had me hook, line, and sinker. It was just this beautiful story about this woman who was living in this very small village, which actually is a real village in
Hmm.
England. Lorna Cook's also British, so which is beautiful because I love the British heritage and their historical side of things. But it was during the First World War, and basically going back between present day and this woman's story during the First World War, and trying to find out what happened to her, where did she go, and how it's intertwined with present day. And you just kind of fell in love with these characters. And there's obviously a love story because that's why I read novels, is for the love story. Let's be honest. That's why Jane Austen is definitely one of my favorite authors in the world.
There's only one Mr. Darcy.
There's only one Mr. Darcy, and it's not the
The
one you're
BBC
thinking.
version. That's
It's a
it.
Kira Knightley.
BBC.
Anyways,
We're not going to argue this on camera.
right, we'll do that
My
later.
family supports me.
Yes, his family does
BBC.
support him. Anyways, so that kind of had me in there. And what was interesting is she released a new book every year, and it usually comes out in Canada around between March and June sometimes. So I typically pre-order her books as soon as I find out that they're being released on Amazon
Yes.
or pre-released. So I do have currently two books
Two
on
books.
order. One is a historical novel. But the other side of it is too is she's also released a new type of book under the pseudonym L. Cook. And this one here was The Man I Never Met, which is also super interesting. It actually does also follow two stories, but it's of present day and they how they intertwine and what happened. And it's a somewhat of mystery, but following this love story that's happening. Anyways, really interesting. Definitely go check her out. But the girl from the island, I guess we
Mm.
would just want to do a quick review on her. This book, which is based between 1940 and 2016, like Curtis was saying, and she writes this beautiful narrative about these two sisters who live on Guernsey Island, which is an island that is under the British
The
Kingdom.
occupation
Yeah,
too at the time of
well, yes. So
yeah.
this happened right, like at the start is right before the Second World War happens, and then the Nazis end up occupying Guernsey Island as well as its sister island, Jersey. What's interesting is that although these books are 100% fictional, the story of what's happening in history is 100% accurate.
Hmm.
Lorna Cook does a massive amount of research to find out and make sure she's historically accurate when she writes these novels. And so she talks about these two sisters in this house that they lived in called Les Deux Tourelles. So the whole time I'm reading this
Yeah.
to Curtis.
So the whole time. So let's back up here. So we're in Newfoundland. We're on vacation. We're driving to different parts of the island, taking a break, and typically Shannon will open it up and start to read to me. And then she's like, once we've stopped, we're at a place, we're resting for the day. And she's like, okay, well, you read a chapter. And I say, okay. So I'm going to read a chapter out loud. And so I open up the book and I start to read. And of course, I'm getting to the name. Now, my French does not exist. It's very, very, very like high. And Shannon, of course, is bilingual. So every time it gets to the location, she just says it the way she says it. And what's the name of it? The
Deux Tourelles.
yeah, there. And so I'm going to that place. And then so then it just got to a point where I would continue to talk and then I'd stop and she would just randomly throw in the name because there was no point of me saying it. But
That's definitely French influence because a lot of the people
yeah,
that live on this island are French. And even there's one character, I think is Stefan. And every time I'd say it, I'd say like that. And he would say it with a very English accent. And I'd be kind of
Stefan.
giggling
Good
a
old
little bit.
Stefan.
But just so everybody knows, Deux Tourelles is like two towers or two turrets on a house, and this house that these sisters lived in had these two turrets, so that's why the house had that
Two
name.
Towers, like Lord of the Rings. Second
A
movie.
little bit different, a little bit different. And there's actually a love story. Frodo does not have a love story.
Sam does. When
Yeah, that's
Sam
fair.
gets back, he
That's
falls in
fair.
love. Marries Rosie, has a bunch of kids. But we're not
Anyways,
reviewing
we're,
Token.
we're bringing that back a little bit.
And
So
yeah, so I mean, again, in all fairness, read the book.
yes, really good.
Read the book.
And just I guess we want to promote her as an author
Yes.
because we really enjoy how
Yes.
she writes, and she definitely grasps your attention, which I'm sure thousands and millions of other authors do the same. But I really enjoy how she writes. Like I say, a lot of British influence. So there's
Mm.
certain words that you'll hear and you'll be like, "What does that mean?" If you're from North America, like a fortnight, which I just learned in recent years is actually
When we went
a
to New
2 week
Zealand,
span. Yeah, I've learned that in New Zealand.
they said they went on vacation for a fortnight, and
And
we
I'm
were
like,
like,
okay,
okay,
tell us what this means.
what is a
I
fortnight?
didn't realize people in regular English world speak this way, but it is very British
Yes.
influence, so it's awesome. Anyways, so Lorna Cook has 4 books in the historical side of things that have been released. So the first one was The Forgotten Village. The second one is The Forbidden Promise. I do own them. I've just lent them to
Yes.
people. The third one is The Girl from the Island, and the fourth one is The Hidden Letters, which I actually just finished 2 or 3 weeks ago. Beautiful novel. Again, that one is set in the First World War, and just adored it.
Amazing.
And the other two novels that are not historical novels is called The Man I Never Met. And then there's a new one coming home. There's a new
It
one
is coming
coming
home
out. Yes, it is.
very shortly.
There's a new one coming out called The Last Train Home. And the new historical novel that's coming out is called The Lost Memories. So, anyways, I hope you get a chance to read her books. She's phenomenal.
Definitely.
Hopefully, one day I can meet her because I really do love how she writes.
She does, and
And
it's, I mean, again, it's one of these things where these books are all over, and usually, truthfully, again, when I go into the Amazon cart and I see a book, I don't even check who it's from. I know a book has been
it's definitely Lorna
pre-ordered, and
Cook.
it's definitely Lorna Cook. And again, from somebody who does not, it sounds horrible when I say I don't read a ton. Like, I promise I can read. It's just I'm a very creative person, and my mind goes 100 miles an hour trying to read it and picture it and do all these type of things. So for me, I throw the audiobook in, I zone out, and I picture everything, and that's how my brain works. So I find that easier. But I will say that when I was reading it, it is such an easy read and a captivating read. She's a phenomenal author. Um, Go and get your hands on a book. Again, right now, The Girl from the Island. Loved that one. I'm sure the other ones are great. I have not got that far into them, but The Girl from the Island, I tell everybody it's just such an amazing book. She's such a good author.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all for today, but we hope that you enjoyed this podcast
Yeah.
and looking forward to seeing you soon. So thanks for joining us for Shepherd's Life. And if you like this, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Instagram page. And
And go look for her.
yeah, go look for
Find
Lorna
her,
Cook.
follow her. She's on Instagram and
Yeah,
all those wonderful things. Follow her and love on her.
yeah, absolutely. Have a great day.